Happy New Year's, everybody. Shep, do you have a New Year's resolution?
Yes, no more criticism of the LA Galaxy.
You might as well pick Toronto to win MLS Cup. Join us for Extra Time next. Welcome to the show, everybody. Greg Lawless and Shep Messing here. As always, this week, the fourth in our series breaking down all the MLS teams in the offseason heading into 2008. We finish up with the Western Conference, and we're going to start, Shep, with Los Angeles. Obviously, the biggest story in MLS, probably the biggest story in MLS history, not just in 2007, with David Beckham's arrival.
I'm going to root for them this year. I'm rooting for them to do well.
Well, that's impressive right there. Already a big change going on. Other changes in Los Angeles in the offseason have taken place. Ruud Gullit was named as the coach, bringing sexy football out to Los Angeles. Another change in the works, supposedly, is that goalkeeper Joe Cannon is going to be leaving, and that means Steve Cronin is there in the starting position.
Yeah, Greg, any coach looking at a new team, I think, looks from the back forward. And if you've got an issue in goal, you've got a problem. If Joe Cannon leaves, I don't think Cronin has the experience. I like his talent, but that's a big risk because the back four, in my opinion, could be the slowest back four in Major League Soccer.
Certainly, especially without Mike Randolph starting. I mean, you've got Ty Harden and Abel Xavier in there in the middle, and Chris Albright, he's not really fast, but he certainly gives them a boost in the defense.
Well, what they lack along the back, I think they make up for it in the midfield. Start with Beckham and then build from there.
Yeah, well, they're certainly going to score some goals this year. I mean, you brought in Clint Mathis as well. Whether he plays up top or in the midfield is hard to say, but you still have Kyle Martino on the left, and with Albright coming back in, you get Chris Klein to move into his natural position in the midfield. And luckily, we are joined right now by Chris Klein of the Los Angeles Galaxy. Chris, welcome to the show. You obviously had a strange 2007. You started on Real Salt Lake, and then all of a sudden you got a phone call that says you're going to the Los Angeles Galaxy and the David Beckham, everything. What was going through your mind? How were you feeling when you got that phone call?
You know, I loved my time in Salt Lake. But when I got the call and realized there was an opportunity to go play for a franchise like the Los Angeles Galaxy, I was obviously very excited. Obviously, the attention surrounding Beckham, but more importantly for me was really the team that I felt that they had on the field with guys like Landon Donovan and a coach like Frank Yallop. And that was the most important thing for me. It obviously didn't turn out the way that I would have hoped or anyone would have hoped, but I think there were a lot of factors that pointed to that.
Chris, let's forget the chaos of last season. You just got back from a big tour, New Zealand, Australia. That's a great time for a team and teammates to get together. What's the mindset of the team now, and what are we thinking about you in terms of the Galaxy right now?
Well, I think that a couple things. As far as the tour of Australia and New Zealand, there were a couple of things that played into it. I think that for us it was good to go over there and play a couple of exhibition games in front of big crowds. But then you threw in the fact that we had a new coach, and we hadn't played a meaningful game or had a meaningful practice in over a month and a half. And so we were juggling a lot of things over there, but it was good for us to get through it and to do all right, and obviously to end that, and so we can look forward to next year.
What are your first impressions of the new coach?
Well, he's intense. I think that's the first thing that I see. And even before you meet him, you see his credentials, and he's won everywhere he's gone. And so to bring that mentality to us, I think is going to be pretty exciting. I think a challenge that he's going to have, though, is learning the system of MLS and the players of MLS. But he promised he's going to work hard to do that, and with his background, I don't have any doubt that he will.
Well, Chris, thanks very much for joining us, and good luck in the new year.
Anytime. Thanks, guys.
Now, who's going to get on the end of a service from Chris Klein? Obviously, Landon Donovan is a great striker for them, but he's not the kind of player to get into the box the way they need. They need to get somebody in there who can do that.
No, Landon Donovan, I think, is really going to benefit from that great midfield behind him, but he's a slashing player. I think they need a big, strong target striker. I don't think they have one. I have to think they have to go get one.
Well, we talked last week about Martin Palermo maybe in San Jose, but maybe Palermo from Boca Juniors also could play in Los Angeles. The other team in Los Angeles, Chivas USA, had a wonderful 2007. Preki got them really going. They won the Western Conference, only their third year in existence as a club. But there are some questions that are starting to arise now in 2008.
Well, I still like the team, Greg. There are question marks. You and I always agree that in the spine of the team, Brad Guzan in goal, Suarez central. I'll get back to Guzan. But if you have Brad Guzan, if you have Suarez and Jesse March, Galindo, Ante Razov up top, you're solid. Lots of talk, though, that Brad Guzan is headed for Europe.
Right, and then they're in trouble because who's going to be your number 2 goalkeeper? They need someone in there. And I also have questions about Claudio Suarez because he's getting old. Right, at this point, he's in his late 30s. I mean, can he last a full season again? Can they continue to do that? In the back also, they lost Jason Hernandez, who was picked up in the expansion draft. I think that right now they have a lot of things that they need to fix in the defense.
Well, I think Preki has some tools, some money, some space to go out and do it. I think the one position on the field where, and you talked about Suarez, for me, the older he gets, the better he used to be. I mean, he can still play because he doesn't rely on himself physically. It's the mental part of the game.
Well, in the midfield, there aren't really many problems right now. Sasha Kljestan had a terrific 2007, and I expect him to be even better. He's going to be a big part, though, of the Olympic team, so they'll probably lose him for about a month when he has to go to Beijing. Now, you also have Mendoza in there, and defensively, obviously, Jesse Marsch is still a fantastic player. Up top, there are some problems, though, with depth, because when Michael Galindo and Ante Razov went out with injury at the end of 2007, they had a lot of trouble.
But I'd make the argument if you take any team in Major League Soccer and take away your 2 best strikers,
you're going to have problems.
Yeah, so assuming Razov is healthy, and he's not a young player now anymore, and Galindo, I still think they really come into the season in pretty good shape.
Well, we'll see if Chivas USA can repeat what they did in 2007, go into 2008, and maybe even challenge for the Cup. The Colorado Rapids had a disappointing 2007, obviously. They have lots of things that they need to work on in the offseason. Fernando Clavijo, the coach, there was lots of talk that if they didn't make the playoffs, he was going to lose his job, but he's still in there. And now he has to start to figure out what's going to be fixed.
Well, he's got to fix some things. And I'll tell you one young player who I thought did extremely well last year, and Fernando Clavijo has him again, Bunacondul. He really kept that team with some holes in the back line you talked about. Bunacondul had a very good season, kept his team in the game.
And his defense in front of him, though, they're big, but they're very slow, and they're starting to show their age. They're getting a little bit older now, and that's going to be a problem as the season wears on, as injuries start to take hold. And because in the midfield, there's talk about getting rid of Pablo Mastroeni. They got rid of Kyle Beckerman. They maybe have lost 2 of their best defensive midfielders, so you don't even have that support in the midfield.
You're right. They have nothing on the defensive side of the ball, so Fernando Clavijo has to plug up that holes if he's going to have any chance.
But on the flanks, they're great with Terry Cook and Colin Clark.
Yeah, and that's a good thing when you can get wide and provide service, but I don't love what they have up top.
Well, right, exactly. Other than Connor Casey, who's the guy who's going to get on the end of it?
Now, Connor Casey had a good year, and he's a good target player, back to the goal, win a ball, take it down, hold it. You need somebody who can run onto it. I think they have to go out and go spend money and get a DP.
Well, there's a rumor out there that Jared Borghetti from Mexico might be that guy. He's exactly the kind of forward they probably need. Get into the box, get a couple of goals. Colorado's going to make a run, they need to bring somebody in to put some people in the stands and get the team a little further into the playoffs. Well, we end our MLS preview and breakdown looking at Houston Dynamo. This is the best team in the league, and you look at their roster even now, and there are no problems there.
Yeah, Greg, you and I have been going over it, and really, they're champions for a reason. They're very balanced. They're very cohesive. There's really not a weakness. If anything, though, let's start at the back. Pat Onstad, love as a goalkeeper, don't question his quality, but as age creeps in, you worry about injuries.
And they just traded their number 2, Zach Wells, to D.C. and picked up Bobby Boswell in return. So they filled a hole in the defense, but now you have a question about number 2 goalkeeper.
Yeah, and number 2 goalkeeper, plus they lost an integral part of their defense in the expansion draft. So with Cochran gone, they have to fill in for him.
Well, I think that Bobby Boswell can probably fill in for Cochran and might even be better, has more skill. And Patrick Ianni, the youngster, can maybe do some things in there. The midfield, though, it is just stacked with Davis and De Rosario and Clark. I mean, these guys are loaded. They're going to make another run for the Cup.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. You talk about, solid in goal, good in the back, a very balanced midfield, and they have what you like to talk about, a game changer in De Rosario. Right. I mean, they're tremendous out of the midfield.
And up top, of course, Brian Ching up there, Joseph Nguyen, Nate Jakwa, probably the 3 best as a unit up top that you can play. You have the slasher, dasher, speedster. You have the big, strong point man. I mean, again, they're stacked.
I don't think it's about talent. We looked at the roster. I mean, they're a champion for a reason. I think the key issue for Dominic Kinnear, the psychological component. Can he keep them motivated, keep them organized so that they're playing their best at the end?
Well, if you look at it right now and you make a prediction, it might be Houston in a 3-peat. Well, everybody, 2008 has started. The off season is going to be exciting, and the season, once it starts rolling in March, is going to be even better. Unfortunately, that's all we have for the show this week, but Shep and I will be here all through the off season and all through 2008. Join us again next week, and we'll pick it around.